Coming up on No Pulp, Austin, all chalk in the Final Four, all one seeds. How about that game? Florida, Texas Tech coming down to the wire.
That was awesome. One of the few great games from the Elite Eight. Plus, I'll be taking on Tyler Aitken, the Rook in the Juicer, talking a lot of things off the court. And we will also be talking about our top 5 most important players left in the big dance in San Antonio.
And of course, we couldn't do a No Pulp show without previewing the Final Four and the plays of the week, plus our final words, all that and more coming up on No Pulp, which starts right now.
Kansas State has been on fire this year.
Missouri is one of the most fraudulent teams in college basketball.
And it was proved in
They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history.
Side to Lawrence for the win. Yes, he got it.
She is the Shohei Ohtani of college softball. This is a team that's potentially going to be a top 10 team in the country.
How you feeling? I'm excited to win the Juicer.
LSU has captured its very first national championship.
Welcome to our glorious studios for another episode of No Pulp. Austin Barach, Jordan Leonard to break down everything to do with the Final Four. Austin, I know this is your favorite time of the year, and I was having this big debate with my roommate over the weekend about the no Cinderellas. I got to get your opinion.
Well,
no Cinderellas?
Your roommate's wrong. I don't look. It's sad that there's no Cinderellas, but the games are going to be good.
They are. All 4 1 seeds making the Final Four for the first time in over 15 years. People are hating on it, but I love this because you get the best 4 teams in the Final Four. I think this is the first time that you can really say that any of these 4 teams can win a national championship.
Right. It's unbelievable. You look at a situation where it's 4 of the top 10 teams in the Ken Pom era. I look at Houston, for example, who in many years would probably be the favorite to cut down the nets. In this Final Four in San Antonio, I believe they have the worst shot to win it all. And I like Houston. They're a great team. But it just speaks to how great Duke is and this SEC storyline. Auburn, the regular season champs. Florida, the conference tournament champs. The storylines are tremendous. The 4 best teams, this is what it's all about.
I mean, you look at that 2008 Final Four that Kansas won the national championship. It was also in San Antonio on the same days that are supposed to be this weekend. You mentioned Ken Pom. It's the first time since it was invented back in the 90s that the top 4 teams are all in the Final Four. Like I said, I mean, Duke, Houston, what a matchup. Auburn, Florida, all these teams going into the tournament, you think they can win a national championship, still think they could. I can't even predict some of these games at this point because of how welterweight these matchups are going to be over the weekend.
Right, if you look at the seeds of most tournaments, you're like, oh, there's always going to be at least 1 5 seed. And the fun for me many years is identifying what that 5 or greater seed could be. If you look here, it's frankly, like, you look at 08, right? In 2015, you had that Duke, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and we haven't seen something like this in a long time. And there's ebbs and flows. And I don't think the discourse like, oh, NIL, transfer portal, they're buying these better players from these smaller conferences. We need more than 1 year of evidence to make these sweeping declarations.
Well, and look at last year. Everyone was saying that last year was the year of the Cinderella. Well, NIL and the transfer portal were available then. They're still available now. So many players are entering the portal every single year. I think it limits the overall potential of Cinderellas to get to the Final Four, but it doesn't take away the impact of the round of 64 and the round of 32. It's still going to be the madness that March is for years to come.
We might not get Loyola Chicago 2018, but hey,
a great team.
There could be some other
still
great stuff.
Alive from that.
That's
still
right.
Alive.
The Ramblers, right. Now let's go to one of the best games in the Elite Eight and one of the best games of the tournament. Florida came back to beat Texas Tech. They were in the depths of despair. They win it 84-79 in San Francisco. Jordan, Texas Tech had this game. They played their style. Grant McCaslin, and you're like, oh, this guy's a wizard, and frankly, he is. And Toppin was getting going late. But when it mattered the most, the Gators, just like that UConn game in the round of 32, found an extra gear they refused to lose.
I forget who said it on a previous juicer portion of No Pulp the last couple of weeks, but somebody said that Texas Tech was their dark horse to make or win a national championship.
Ian Nicholas said that.
It was Ian, credit to him, because I actually thought Texas Tech was going to win this game, but I was sitting on my couch with one of my other roommates, not the one that was arguing about the non-madness part. And we were both sitting there, we're like, when is this Florida run going to start? Because Florida did not play well for most of that game. And we knew from that UConn game and from Florida all season long, if they catch fire, if Walter Clayton Jr. catches fire, I mean, Texas Tech was toast.
Right, and Thomas Houck showed up in a massive way. He was the catalyst. He hit 2 big three-pointers, set the table for that Clayton Jr. 3. And this one right here, when he dribbles backwards, his back is against the basket, and he makes a three-pointer when his team was losing. And shout out to Todd Golden and the analytics. He's trusted his analytics all year, deliberately fouled. He fouled twice with over 2 minutes left with one-on-one situations for Tech. Tech missed both of those, right? You roll the dice, it worked out well for the Gators. I give him some credit with his coaching and sticking to his philosophies with how this one played out.
And that's what I think contributed to that last 3 minutes of play. When you look at it, it wasn't just Florida winning it all. Yes, they did shoot 100%, outscored Texas Tech by a lot. But Texas Tech missing those free throws, especially the front ends of one-and-ones, are going to kill you, especially in the tournament. But that shot, I mean, Walter Clayton Jr., I mean, literally running backwards and then shooting a fadeaway. You can't simulate that. If you're Texas Tech, you're like, oh my gosh, like, how did you hit that?
You just got tip your cap. Excuse me. Bill Rafter, if he was on the game, we would have gotten many onions calls.
Well, that's why I love watching actually these games, because I think the analysis on the defense that Thomas Houck played, he always forces you to your weakness when he's playing defense against you. That's something to watch going into the Final Four. Moving over to the women's side, though, very unfortunate news out of USC. Juju Watkins out for the rest of the season. She suffered a torn ACL at Austin. I mean, just despair when you're looking at this women's tournament. The most impactful and the most fun player to watch going down with an injury. That'd be like Caitlin Clark going down with an injury in years past.
Right. This happened in the round of 32. USC was my pick to win it all. I feel horrible for Juju, right? She's a player who is super special. She does everything for USC for the most part. And she plays an aggressive style, and the knee just gave out, and it was agony to watch. It looked very painful. You'll see it coming up right here. She just lands awkwardly, and it's just a tough scene all around. She was so special. I thought she had a chance to be better than Caitlin Clark in college. She's just a sophomore, but this injury could potentially sideline her for next year as well. We were just told UConn is up 14 at the half on USC in the Elite Eight, which is to no surprise. UConn expected to win that game without Watkins, so really tough pill to swallow all around. I feel terrible for her.
Yeah, I think that's what really sucks about USC is you've seen Juju Watkins lead this team. The games that she played against UCLA both times were just absolutely insane. This matchup, her going against Paige Beckers tonight would have been absolute cinema. And then again, when you lose the best player in the tournament, I mean, you can go back and forth with Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers. You can put Lauren Betts in there because she's so tall and dominating down low. But when you lose the best player in the tournament, it really takes a hit. Especially again, like I said, the game tonight would have just been awesome to watch.
It would have been. Paige Becker, she reached out to Juju, said, "I'm here for you. I know all the tips and tricks." You know, she recovered from a couple of pretty devastating injuries herself. It's going to be a long road to recovery. Her team squeaked it out in the Sweet 16. Again, they're playing right now, but it's a brutal thing. I think this does set the table nicely up for UConn. Once that news happened, it's like this is really UConn's thing to lose.
I think it's a UConn-South Carolina final at this point, and the way that UConn is playing basketball right now, South Carolina, has played well all season long. So has UConn. But look at that matchup back in January when we talked about it on No Pulp. I mean, UConn just absolutely trounced South Carolina on the road.
And South Carolina has not looked good against Maryland and Duke. I watched the fourth quarters of those games. South Carolina was very, very vulnerable, a little bit lucky to reach the Final Four.
Well, you look at that Maryland game. It's so funny because when you look at South Carolina, you expect dominance. When I looked at that final score, I didn't watch too much of the game, and they only won by that much, you're like, oh, what happened to South Carolina? But Maryland, obviously a good team as well. Hopefully Juju Watkins gets better and hits back to the college basketball court. We got a big contest, though, coming up after the break. Austin Barach taking on Tyler Aitken in the Juicer tournament. Implications are here tonight. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back, everyone, into No Pulp. Austin Barach, Jordan Leonard, as always. Tyler Aitken here for his Juicer debut. There's some Juicer tournament implications, guys. I hope you know that.
Yes.
This is a big contest. You guys want to shake hands? I know you guys are friends off the court.
Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah. I've been looking forward to this.
Good luck, Mr. Aitken.
The eye contact there is awesome. I'll go to Austin for the first question. As we said, the transfer portal is popping.
Yeah.
Who's the best available player in the transfer portal right now?
Well, we should say that we made these picks yesterday, and some guys have found homes since then. But at the time, this guy was the best available guy in the portal, and his name is Adrian Woolley, a transfer out of Kennesaw State. This guy averaged 18 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game on 42% three-point shooting. Just one of 4 players in the entire country this year to have those stats. You might say, oh, smaller conference, who cares? Well, Jordan, you might remember him from beating Rutgers back earlier on this season when he had 7 assists and 3 steals in that one. He played Liberty, who won the conference in the Conference USA. He had 22 points, 28 points. He was an 11-time Rookie of the Week in Conference USA. First team All-CUSA. It's just a freshman. Pretty good stuff.
This guy's a dog. TA, what you got?
Austin, you can take your guy who averaged 3.5 turnovers a game in Conference USA, and you can keep him, because I'm going with Ryan Conwell, the junior guard out of Xavier. Ryan Conwell, what do you mean? He was 17-3-3 at a Power 5 school. And more importantly, Austin, he's just very good at defense. A steal and a half per game against actual good offenses. Again, this is the Big East, not Conference USA. He's a 40% three-point shooter across a 3-year career, was 42% this season. That was top 3 in the Big East. He shoots threes at a high level. He plays defense at a high level. Every team in the country needs a 3-and-D guy. He's proven it against better teams. He's a veteran player. He's 21 years old. He's on an 18-year-old from Conference USA.
More upside. More upside for my guy.
Okay.
And they're both 1-year rentals wherever they go.
Okay, but that's basically because of the transfer portal. I mean, Tyler, I think you know where I'm going with this. We talked about this in the Poconos. Austin mentioned it. Woolley dominated Rutgers
he had 10
when
points.
they played. Trust me, I watched that game. The impact was there. 1 point for Austin.
Okay.
A guy who dominates my Scarlet Knights is the best player in the portal.
Yep.
Of course. We talked about the coaching cycle in the webisode of No Pulp. Go check that out on our CitrusTV Sports Twitter. A lot of coaches are on the move, Austin. What's the most surprising coaching change?
I'm not going to lie, not a whole lot of these were that surprising if you kind of connect the dots. But for me, Richard Pitino to Xavier, and this is kind of a 2-pronged test, right? Think about time, place, manner, 3-pronged test. Come on, what up? But when you look at Richard Pitino, 2 things need to happen for him to land at Xavier. 1, you needed Sean Miller to leave for a second time from Xavier, and he beat Texas in the first 4. He took Ronnie Terry's job. That's unbelievable. And Pitino, Richard, was rumored by multiple sources to go to Villanova. As we know, Miller took that job. But 2 things had to happen. Pitino in the same conference as his dad. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
You literally just said it. He's going to a conference to join his dad where he is playing in a higher level. He went from New Mexico to Xavier. Of course he's going to go there. I'm going to go with a departure, though, not someone joining a team. Tobin Anderson, fired from Iona, makes absolutely 0 sense to me, Austin, because he was absolutely phenomenal at FDU. Then he joins a school that lost all of its great recruits once Rick Pitino left. He literally had to start from scratch, and in year 2 was in the MAAC championship game, and the standard he was held to was completely unfair. In the 20 years before Pitino showed up to Iona, they made the tournament every 3 years or so, and now he made 2 years without a tournament, and all of a sudden they fire him. The players went on Twitter. They complained that he was gone. The local media had not heard anything about it. If the inside sources of the MAAC, like Sam Fetterman, are shocked about a coach firing, then I'm going to be shocked too.
You know, Austin, There's one coach that when I looked at the news, I was literally said, what? When I was looking at my phone, it's got to be Tobin Anderson. This guy did not deserve it. He made it to the conference championship game, was a win away from making the NCAA tournament.
I would have picked TA there as well.
2 points for Tyler, 2-1. Tyler's on top. We got our third and final question of the Juicer. We go to Tyler first. It's a big one. Which game in March Madness did not live up to the hype for you?
Listen, there was an Elite Eight game that I thought was going to be the game of the entire tournament.
Wow.
Duke versus Alabama. You're talking about potentially the #1 team in the entire country in Duke, with Cooper Flagg, one of the best players in the country, with one of the biggest brands in the entire country in Duke, representing the ACC, the last stand for the ACC with Duke, going against the new school SEC team that just set a tournament record with 25 made three-pointers in their previous win over BYU. This was supposed to be an offensive showcase. This was supposed to be a game where it was like 91-88. That's what it was built up to be. And it was a 20-point blowout win for Duke. It was supposed to be a fun game to watch. Not just a game with good teams, but it was supposed to be a fun game with lots of offense, and that's not what it was. It was a 20-point blowout. Duke never trailed. And so I was really disappointed.
Well, I don't know how you can say a game involving Duke and Cooper Flagg can be underwhelming, but I guess whatever. Tennessee-Houston, man, this game sucked. In the Sweet 16, the bad game was Kentucky and Tennessee, and this one was even worse. You're thinking, okay, maybe Tennessee can match up. It's going to be a dogfight. You're thinking of the storylines. Houston, the redemption arc, back to the Final Four. Rick Barnes and Tennessee have never made a Final Four, and this thing was over out of the jump. It was like 15-4. Tennessee scored 16 points in the first half. Shades of Clemson against McNeese. It was a 2.5-point spread. This thing was never close. It was unfortunate. This was supposed to be a defensive juggernaut. 50-50, something like that, and Houston said no.
You're surprised that a game with two good defenses was low scoring and unexciting.
Well, Tennessee was never close. The game was never in doubt.
Same with the Duke Alabama game.
But that has more cachet to it.
Okay. I do agree with Tyler in the fact that Alabama did not come into play in that game. If Alabama shot the way they did in the previous game, it would have been the games of the tournament.
But I have to side
with Austin because it was a blowout in the first half. I turned on golf to watch over this game because of how much of a blowout it was. Austin wins the Juicer.
Yes.
Let's take a look at the standings. Maybe this was the wrong decision, actually, for me. I'm not a 2 seed in the Juicer standings. If I saw this graphic before the show,
that's going to be like the Celtics this year. I might
not have given you the win, but hey, we got to dominate when it comes to the Juicer tournament. If we're the top 1 or 2 seeds, we have to dominate. Good effort, though.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are patting each other on the back. Jordan, by the way, gave Austin the win because I took his parking spot today.
True.
Just so you're aware.
Details matter.
Details do matter. You did have a bad parking job, but there was no bias right here. We got to hit another break here on No Pulp, but afterwards, we're evaluating our valuable players left in the tournament. Austin, I got 5 for you after the break.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back into another episode of No Pulp. Austin Baird, Jordan Leonard. Austin, we got the Final Four cooking. By the way, how's your bracket doing? I got to ask.
It's okay. It's doing pretty well. If there was a year where you want to feel good about yourself, it's not this year because all the casuals are going to pick all those 1 seeds, so that's not great. But it's all right. I got 2 of the 4. I know you got 2 or at least 3 of the 4, right?
I got 2 of the 4, unfortunately. Tennessee lost against Houston. I would have had 3 of the 4. We got our most valuable players left in the tournament. We got 5 to pick from. Great pictures of Austin and I. Of course, I'm going first. My 5th most valuable player's got to start with Houston and Joseph Tugler. This guy is a defensive menace. He is up for Defensive Player of the Year. He doesn't get it all done in the offensive categories. He's not going to get you off of the stat sheet there. But he's, according to Avin, great statistician in the college of basketball. But he's the 3rd most valuable player in the country and the most valuable defensive player in the country, especially the way that Houston is playing. They market themselves on defense. I'm going to take their best defender as the most valuable guy, especially I'd imagine he's going to be guarding Cooper Flagg come Final Four time.
I agree with that, and I will be talking about him later. All right, let's move on to my number 5. We're going to the Dukies, and I got Colin Knippel, right? So in most years, this guy would be hateable, but he's actually kind of the key piece in a lot of what Duke likes to do, right? He's a 13, 14 point per game scorer, efficient, really good off of 2 feet, does a lot of the dirty work, makes his shots really tough. He does a lot with not a lot of other things that can go wrong for him, right? He doesn't play out of his game. He hits a lot of big shots, and he's not even that hateable. He's a great guy. He's my number 5 player because he's going to have to go against the toughness of all those Houston guards.
I like this pick out of you, Austin. Colin Knippel is probably one of the more underrated players on Duke, if not Tyrese Proctor as well. I'm going to get to him in a little bit, but 9 number AB, who do you got for 4?
That's right. So at my number 4, I got a guy that I think both of us have as well. Thomas Houck out of Florida.
That's good.
Look, Stan Van Gundy. If I had a nickel for every time Stan Van Gundy mentioned Thomas Houck, I'd be richer than Steve Jobs. Well, that was a mistake that Gundy made on the broadcast. But Houck, the defense, we talked about it earlier. He's tenacious over there. He plays defense like he's going to get punished if he lets his man score. He's flying all over the place, making key 3-pointers. He comes off the bench, and you're like, wait, what? The Gators have more of these dudes? This isn't fair. But he's a key guy, and when you look at Broome and Cardwell on the front line for Auburn, he's going to be big.
Yeah, I mean, what he's done in the last couple of games in the NCAA tournament is awesome. I think that's an underrated take out of you, Stan Van Gundy. This is why I love watching games at home and not at a bar. I get to listen to the color commentary. It was great on Thomas Houck. He forces you into stuff that you don't want to do on a basketball court. For my number 4 pick, I'm going to go with a little bit of a two-way player, Chad Baker-Mazara from Auburn. This guy can do it all on the court. He can run point, he can shoot, he can play defense. He's a little streaky on his shooting, which kind of takes down his value a little bit to number 4. But Coach Pearl loves this guy. This guy is an athletic freak. He could not play the style of offense and defense that he wants to if it wasn't for Chad Baker-Mazara. He's long, he stands just about 6'7", and you know, in the Elite Eight, he wasn't hot shooting the ball, but he kept playing, and he really keeps the energy, especially when Johni Broome went out with an injury.
Yeah, Baker-Mazara, I can't say I'm the biggest fan. I respect the antics. I think he's a live wire.
But sometimes you need it.
Right. He's always flailing on the ground. He's skinny like me, so he's always like semi-hurt. It's like, is this a season ender? Is he fine? Is this what he does?
You just compared yourself to Chad Baker-Mazara?
A little bit, but
didn't know you were that good at basketball.
I'm not. I'm bad. My bad.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he is. He will be important. If he does well, Auburn will be good.
Back to my picks, because my picks are just better than Austin. Let's be real. We go number 3 here. Colin Knippel. Of course, not number 5, Austin.
Oh, they're next to each
number
other.
3.
Look at this Freaky Friday.
This guy gets it done everywhere. He is the most underrated player on Duke, probably with Tyrese Proctor. He can shoot, he can guard, he stands at about 6'7". What he does for Duke is so undervalued because of how good Cooper Flagg is. Look at that, 14 points per game, that's second. And then you look at those rebounds, assists, steals, 3-point percentage. He plays a lot of minutes. And really, when Cooper Flagg's not on the floor, him and Tyrese Proctor make Duke so good that they could probably get to a Final Four and potentially win a national championship even without Cooper Flagg on the floor. That's what makes him so valuable.
I don't know if I believe that Duke can win without Cooper Flagg, but we saw what they did in the ACC tournament without him. I mean, Flagg's the best player in the country.
Oh, he is.
But Knipple, I mean, Batman Robin stuff right there. All right, for my number 3, we're going to Walter Clayton Jr. Now, he's a star, and I want to get this out of the way right now before we get to the 2 and the 1. I don't have Flagg, I don't have Broom on here. I believe those two guys are obviously so good they have just ascended beyond the top ranks of all of college basketball year. That's why they're number 1 and 2 in the Wooden War. But Clayton, he is like the Kemba candidate, that Shabazz Napier candidate, the shot maker kind of guy that you need to have on your team. When things got tough against UConn, he shot them past UConn. When things got tough against Texas Tech, he shot them past Texas Tech. The driving is elite. He got that quick trigger from that right pocket, little swish, little bang down. It's awesome. He plays with so much confidence, poise. I love watching him play. I love watching him at Iona with my guy, Rick Pitino. He's a tremendous player. I am so happy that we get to, as a collective country, watch Walter Clayton Jr. battle the Auburn Tigers in the biggest stage. He is that special of a player.
It's going to be fun. I was getting a little concerned when you're starting to compare him to Kemba Walker because those guys came out in the NCAA tournament, performed so much better than in the regular season. He's been doing it all year long, but I
First
do agree,
team All-American.
Very valuable to Florida.
Yes, all right. And for my number 2, we got a guy who somehow didn't make Jordan's list, but importance, Tahad Pettiford, the backup point guard for the Auburn Tigers. Pettiford might be the most exciting player on the Tigers. He really stirs the drink for them when he comes in the game. It changes the entire complexion of what they do. He's a lefty. He's super quick, lightning quick. He splits the double teams like the best of them, got that floater game down. The shot making that he had in the Sweet 16 matchup against Michigan, the second half, was unbelievable stuff. He's exciting. He's somebody that you can't really game plan for necessarily.
Well, he is the backup point guard.
Well, in the sense of that, he's not your traditional backup point guard. He would be starting on any other team. He should be an NBA guy at some point in these next couple of years. But Pettiford, he's quick, he can shoot it, but he can also go the wrong way with some turnovers sometimes, so he will be important.
If he played just as well as he did against Michigan State, I probably would have had him in the top 5, but because a little bit, and it was hard to replicate what he did against Michigan, but a little bit of a drop-off. That's why I don't really have him on number 2. My number 2, though, is your number 4, Thomas Hawk. Just the stuff, again, the multifaceted. He has been going off in the NCAA tournament. He's the 6th most valuable player, according to Evan Miyakawa, in the country. And then when he does on offense and defense, he's averaging about 13 points per game in the last couple NCAA tournament games. And the defense that he plays, you mentioned Stan Van Gundy on color commentary for the game. He forces an offensive player into things he doesn't want to do. He is the best guy in the country right now, most underrated skill at reading the scouting report. That's the most simple thing you can do in college basketball or any sport, and he does it the best. I mean, just look at those stats on the screen right there. Those are the offensive stuff, and the defensive stuff is kind of hard to track, unless you get steals or blocks.
Sure.
This guy reads the scouting report, is so valuable to this Florida team. Kind of shocked that he still comes off the bench, but when he comes off the bench, immediately Florida is a better team for it. And then, of course, for my number 1, Austin, you're not going with Janai Broom or Cooper Flagg. I got to go with my guy, Janai Broom, just because, in the sheer fact that Auburn looked a little bit shaky when Janai Broom went out with an injury. They did have a double-digit lead, and they kind of maintained it, but so much offense runs through Janai Broom that Auburn is a completely different team without him. I think your guy, Tahad Pettiford, would be huge if Broom, isn't at 100%, can't really run the offense through him to the extent, but the way he could pass, the way he could score, the rebounds, the defense, he just opens up everything on the floor for everyone else, and that's why he's my most valuable player.
Broom, I've been more impressed with his defense as I've continued to watch him. His wingspan is great. I don't know if I like this about him or not, but you can see his emotions when he gets a defensive stand. He kind of draws the box and kind of flips to the crowd. He's kind of a showman. But on offense, he's stoic. You never know if things are going well or wrong for him. I like it a lot. You're right about the passing. And that over the right shoulder stuff is so good. That little kiss off the glass, it's great.
And by the way, why was everyone hating on Janai Broom at the end of the year when he wasn't playing as well as he had at the beginning of the year? Everyone's hating on Auburn, hating on Janai Broom, and they've proven different in this tournament so far.
They reverted back to their old ways after losing 3 or 4. Right, yeah. Look, I give Auburn a lot of credit. Maybe that'll come back to bite me down the road here. My number one, Joseph Tugler. So you're like, wait, what? A guy who barely scores is your number one most valuable player? Well, he's going to have to guard Cooper Flag and probably also Kaman Malawach. He's going to have to be the entire front court defense for Houston if they want to have a chance to win this game against the mighty Duke Blue Devils. The wingspan is off the charts. When he puts his arms down, it's like they're touching the floor. You see the blocks number. You know, when Grant Nelson matched up with Cooper Flag, I was like, uh-oh, this might be a tough matchup for Flag. Tugler has the ability to frustrate Flag in ways that I don't think Flag has seen this season. But also, there's Malawach on the other end, because if Flag, you know, you talk about Broom and how stoic he is, Flag's same way, and he'll just lob it up. So Tugler's going to have to read and react, kind of jab and go back. He's going to have to be the entire backline defense for Houston. I know they got other guys as well. They got Francis and they got Jawan Roberts. But Tugler has the most upside, and Duke's scoring around the rim is phenomenal.
So because they are facing Duke in the Final Four, and we're going to talk about that in a second, who do you put Tugler against, Cooper Flag or Kaman Malawach?
I believe that's a great question. I think you start Roberts on Flag and you put Tugler on Malawach.
Interesting, because I would flip that, because I think Tugler's a little bit more athletic than Roberts is. I think Roberts matches up a little bit better with Malawach, but really tough. Houston, you know, is going to bring the defense. We got a lot to preview with the Final Four. That's all coming up after another break here on No Pulp. Finally, talking Final Four preview after this.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back into No Pulp, everyone. He's Austin Barach. I'm Jordan Leonard. And finally, the time that we've been waiting for, previewing the Final Four.
Look at this.
Look at how nice this looks. I mean, it kind of looks ugly and nice at the same time with all 4 1 seeds in there. But, I mean, these are going to be some great games, Austin. Just generally, this Final Four is going to be must-watch television.
This is. If you aren't glued to your TV at, what is it? 6 and
it's
9
like 6:09
p.m.
and 6:09 and then 8:49, but probably the game's gonna go long.
Then what are you doing
at 9 Eastern time? Yeah.
It's gonna be phenomenal stuff.
You got to stay up. I hope it's not past your bedtime.
No, I'll be locked in, Jordan. Come on now.
This is basketball expert Austin Barach, but he wasn't so much of a basketball expert when talking about my Auburn team earlier this semester. Look what Austin had to say.
I don't love these two teams long term for national title purposes. But what an atmosphere.
You don't like Auburn?
No, I actually don't think that they can win at all. We'll get to that maybe later on down the road.
They have 11 quad 1 wins.
Sure, I get that. I understand that. Don't get me wrong. They are a really, really good team. I think that they are a Final Four team. They have a lot of good pieces. Bruce Pearl, though, with a top 4 seed, not somebody I trust. Something to monitor.
Well, Austin, you alluded to it. Down the road, we're here. What do you have to say for yourself?
The road ends here, as they say. What did I say? They're Final Four good. They've gotten there. They're not going to win the national title. I still believe that. Look, and this is the clip. This is the clip, right? If I'm wrong, then look, I'll eat it. I'll own up to it. But right now, we're right on track, baby. We're right on track. I do have to give Auburn a lot of credit, right? And in all seriousness, they're a really good team. And perhaps me, like the rest of America, fell in love with this Michigan State team and thought, you know what? Auburn's not really doing it for me, entering the NCAA tournament. We'll have them lose in the Elite Eight. But what they showed to claw back against Creighton, get over the hump there, and then that, a 20-4 run against Michigan, that was the moment that I'm like, ooh, Auburn is back to Auburn
in like that January way. Now they did lose that big time game earlier this season to Florida, 90-81, and that was without Elijah Martin for the Gators. So I still do believe Florida is the better team. I do believe Florida will beat Auburn.
Yeah, but you look at that game. Florida shot 13 of 33 from three-point range. That's almost 40%. Auburn did start with the lead, but this was really the difference of the game. Florida scored 17 points off of 8 Auburn turnovers. The Tigers only scored 13 points off 12 Gator turnovers. I think this is going to be a lot closer of a game. Obviously, Final Four national championship on the line. I think it's going to be a lot closer. But everyone's been hating on my Auburn team. This team has been my team since the start of the year, and yes, a little bit of chop. They've been number one for a lot of the season, but everyone was hating on them going to the NCAA tournament. They're like, Auburn, they can't win it all. They lost 3 of the last 4, 4 last 5, whatever the number was.
Last 4, yeah.
Yeah, they're here. They're playing their best basketball. Hopefully, Janai Broome is 100% healthy. We know that he's not fully healthy, but he's going to play. Should be a great game. But how about the other side of the bracket? Duke,
let's go, baby.
Houston, defense versus great offense. Don't forget, Duke can also play defense. This is going to be a great matchup, Austin.
I cannot wait to see these guards battle out, right? We talked about the front court with Tugler just a moment ago. You think about Sion James against L.J. Cryer. Sion James, the guy who I believe can kind of neutralize L.J. Cryer. We talked about Knippel a lot. Knippel's scoring. What's he going to do against Cryer scoring? When Cryer has space, he can really light it up in a hurry. Emmanuel Sharp from the right wing is deadly as well. So you got Knippel, Proctor, who's just been an absolute flamethrower, and Sion James. James will be key to take these guys out. James, a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot. He's the least talked about guy in that amazing Duke starting lineup, but he gets into you. He will make it difficult for Cryer and the rest of those guards for Auburn. Milos Uzane, I cannot wait to see how this stuff plays out.
So this is where I think it's going to be interesting. I think Houston can play defense against Duke. Will they hold them down? No, Duke has too many offensive players. But can Houston score with Duke? They've been able to do it for most of the year. They have 3 players that shoot around 40% from 3-point range. That's nuts. L.J. Cryer, we saw on the screen, he's been great all season. He's been a little bit less good in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
But this is where Cooper Flagg comes. It's his time to shine. I mean, Stephen A. Smith and First Take was talking about it earlier today, Austin, of where he falls in the Mount Rushmore. If they can make a national championship happen, he's got to show up in big moments here in this Duke game.
I believe he will. We read that Mike DeCourcy article last week comparing him to 2003 Carmelo Anthony. Love the article, the orb that he brings out, even touching the basketball. He's supposed to be in his senior year of high school right now. You mentioned the defense, though, with Duke. That's the thing. Houston, we've been on this all year long. One of the things we have agreed with on this program is that Houston's offense is still not elite. We know Duke's offense is elite. Duke's defense elite. Houston's defense elite. Houston's offense, that is the struggle point right now. So Houston will have to bring Duke into the mud. They're going to have to question their mental fortitude. These two teams played in the Sweet 16 last year, and Houston suffered a tough injury with Jamal Shedd.
Yeah.
Duke bounced him in what was considered a little bit of an upset here. Sampson, back in San Antonio, there's a lot of good mojo here with the Cougars, but Duke is just way too much.
And I think it's going to come down to pace of play because Duke wants to play at a solid, faster pace. Houston, one of the slowest paces in the country. That's how they play good defense. They slow it down on offense. Who can control the pace of play? You mentioned it. Injuries will obviously play a factor. Sharp, I think, is going to have to play a huge role, especially on the offensive side for Houston, if they want to get it done and get to the championship game. I will say I'll be rooting against Houston, though, because to win my bracket pool, I got to have Houston lose and Auburn win a title. So Auburn needs to win a title, and Houston needs to lose.
That's our two teams, Duke and Auburn.
Those are our two teams. We got one more break for you here on No Pulp, but of course, plays of the week and our final words coming up next, like always, here on No Pulp.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back, everyone. Tall man Austin Barach, a little bit shorter guy, Jordan Leonard here. We talked a lot of Final Four, Austin. Basketball, that's your thing.
Yep.
I wish your bracket was a little bit better.
I actually think I'm doing better than you.
You might actually be doing better than me.
I for all the talk from this guy.
If Tennessee just won against Houston, I would have had 3 of the Final 4 teams in there.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You're right. We talked a lot of basketball. When it comes to Player of the Week, Austin and I actually in agreement here a little bit. Baseball took the show here in college baseball this weekend. We got Illinois second baseman Colton Quagliano. I mean, it's not only the catch here, because I know they're going to replay it in the highlight. Look at that catch.
Whoa.
Diving. Oh my gosh, coming all the way from second base, but also the score. Tying run at the plate. This guy ends the game. That's a game-winning catch, essentially, for Colton Quagliano, coming all the way from second base. I was a second baseman back in high school. Not actually high school. Back in the little Little League, I played first base. That was a crazy catch.
Well, it would have landed out of play, so
yes,
the runners
but the tying run was that you
could have
hit a home run.
All right, for my play of the week, we're going to Charlottesville, Virginia, and the name to know is Tatum Marsh. Right, this game was going on as Syracuse men's lacrosse was actually beating Virginia. Here is left fielder and the dive extension. Great stuff out of Tatum Marsh, a freshman who has committed 0 errors in 23 games. Look at this. Look at this. And he actually overextended, so he caught it with the heel of his mitt. Tremendous stuff out of Tatum Marsh. Now, UVA would go on to win this game 9-8. There were 32 combined hits in this one, but Marsh said there will not be 33. Great stuff from Tatum Marsh.
We've talked about it kind of throughout No Pulp this entire year. The transfer portal, I think I might have talked about conference realignment, but the transfer portal is absolutely horrendous, and that's my final word here today. I want to give you some stats. 2,100 players entered the portal last season. 750 players entered on the first day of the portal this year. Robert Morris lost its entire starting lineup from his tournament team, and Indiana lost its entire team. This needs to stop. Let's take a look and see what Jay Billis had to say. I think this is a great solution for what is going on in the transfer portal.
But if they would just sign the players to contracts, say, hey, we're willing to offer you a 3-year deal with an option for a 4th. If you get arrested, we get to terminate. It's mandatory class attendance. You have to do this, this, and this. And there's going to be a buyout in there. We negotiate the amount of the buyout. So if I wanted to leave, go somewhere else, I'd have to pay the buyout, or my new school would have to pay the buyout. It's pretty simple.
I watched that on the good app called TikTok, and that was the best thing that I've seen in terms of the transfer portal. Contracts are needed. It doesn't have to be a 3-year. It could be a 2+1. You could figure it out. All these players have agents at this point, but it needs to be contracts. It needs to be better. 2,100 players in the transfer portal is unsustainable, especially in college basketball, Austin.
Jay Billis always has cool thoughts to say. Let's talk about Jay Billis' former team. Duke is one of the best teams of our lifetime, and they are flying under the radar in terms of how great they are. There are no flaws with this team. The 10-man rotation that they have is incredible. Cooper Flagg is the best player in the country, and he should literally be in high school right now as a senior. Somehow, he doesn't force the issue and yet also has an insane will to win. Con Knippel is awesome. On Saturday morning, I saw a video where Flagg was asked what 3 things he'd bring to survive an apocalypse, and he said food, a gun, and Con Knippel. Flagg understands everything that Knippel does for him and this team, and it is still somehow underrated. Tyrese Proctor has embraced the role of the vet all year long. He's been a flamethrower this tournament. Kaman Malawach is seriously twice as good as he was when he played in Syracuse on February 5th. And my guy Malik Brown is so valuable that even with no left shoulder, he is still receiving playing time in this tournament to do everything but shoot because he's elite at all those other things. I could go on and on about the players. John Shire, a really good coach. On a bigger picture scale, notable North Carolina fan Tate Frazier has been totally right about the point that Duke is legitimately due to win a national title. 2019 and 2022 could have been the years, but those Duke teams pale in comparison to this Duke team. The craziest part is they are not even hateable. They're somewhat likable. You can find my last words last year about UConn. I know a great team when I see one. They will cruise and win the national championship.
So you got Duke to win the national championship.
Yep.
I got Auburn. That's my original pick. Hopefully we meet in the national championship so we can have a nice watch party on Monday. That does it for this episode of No Pulp. He's Austin Barach. I'm Jordan Leonard. Enjoy watching the Final Four this weekend.